Hello lovely people. Today we're going to have a full review and distortion measurements of this Taramps SMART 3 bass. Now probably everybody is asking, why do you have a Taramps? Like what it's an SPL amplifier for big subwoofers, man. It's 3000 watts. Why do you need it? Now the reason why I need it is because I was planning to run this one, which is an Alpine X Series A90M, which is a monoblock, and it's supposed to do like 900 watts into 2 ohms. And if you watch my previous videos, recently I bought a One Audio 18-inch subwoofer for infinite baffle, and that is rated, I believe, 1125 watts or something like that. So I knew that this amplifier is not going to be enough if I will plan to utilize the subwoofer to its fullest. And now, like, for SQ purposes, for normal casual listening, this would be plenty enough, not a problem at all, because you wouldn't push the subwoofer to the max. However, I was thinking, like, if I have that subwoofer, if I have it installed, why not try to push it and see what it can do? I'm not a bass head by any means. However, it's just interesting for me personally because I never had such a big subwoofer. Now, this is going to be kind of a comparison between SPL amplifiers and SQ amplifiers, if there's such a thing. Now, I'm not going to go into like half bridge, full bridge, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. If you want to see an amp dyno, there is plenty of amp dynos for this one. But in here, we're not going to look at amp dynos. We're going to look at the actual performance, the quality of the stuff. Again, the internal components, I'm not going to open it up because a lot of people did already. And for this, you can watch like Sam's videos because he goes into internals and components and everything. It's not about that. This is going to be about distortion measurements. We will be measuring distortion on this amplifier and this one as well. And basically in this video, you will see the difference between like cheap bass amplifier and high quality SQ bass amplifier. Now from all those measurements, we're going to see that sometimes it's not worth paying extra for a very high quality amplifier if you can get, I don't want to use the word good enough, but to get power clean wise, what you actually need. So another thing about power to note is that this amplifier is rated into 2 ohms. It plays half an ohm up to 2 ohms, and it's rated 3000 watts RMS at 12.6 volts, which is like it's a smart amp, so it's basically has the same power for different voltages and for different loads. However, this one is rated at 14.4 volts, which is much higher. So even with lower voltage that I'm planning to have, because I will be installing a lithium bank that's gonna run at 13.2 volts, something like that. So from that voltage, I will get more power of this than out of this, obviously, but this is rated at 14.4, so at 13.2 it's gonna give much less, and we will see in the measurements how much power we're getting from this. But like build wise, this feels like it's missing some plastic trims from the side, but like it feels like a proper quality product. You take it in your hand, it's very heavy, and you can feel the quality like oozing from it. Now, when you take this one, you can feel that it's cheaper. Like, this one is kind of bendy. It's, I want to say almost the same weight, kinda. But yeah, you can feel that it's totally different. I might repaint it black because I don't like the white. We will see how it's gonna be. So I think we're gonna jump into the measurements because this is the most important thing. This amplifier is all over the place. I got it from Sam from Berovitz. He sold it to me, and what he did, he removed the subsonic filter because this has a built-in subsonic filter. It starts at like it says it 8 hertz, but it's still there. And since I'm using it for infinite baffle, I don't need it at all. So I will show you the frequency response of this amplifier with the subsonic disabled. And one note to note is that this gain knob, when I tried it, it's extremely sensitive. Like on the Alpine, it's not as sensitive. This is like very fidgety, so I don't really like it. However, I will be keeping it all the way down because it takes up to 4 volts, and I'm gonna be feeding it with a Helix that has 8 volts out. And again, no boost, no nothing. Yeah, it has this little thing which probably everybody knows. It does like on clip and protection, but I'm not going to use it because I'm not going to run it into clipping, that's for sure. And this is a whole thing. Like with this amplifier, I won't have to worry about anything literally because I have the electrical that can support like up to 4K that it says on the lithium battery. I won't have to worry about clipping my subwoofer amplifier. Most of the people that have smaller subs, like 500 watts, 400, 600, that's an SQ, and they have a 1000 watt amplifier, they don't have to worry about it as well. But since I'm having a 1000 watts sub and 900 watt amp, I would need to bottom it out just to have like the maximum power. But with this one, I don't have to worry about it at all. It does 3K. I'm gonna tone it down to have 1K and it's not a problem. So less headaches for me in general. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the laptop and see how this measures and how it compares to the Alpine. This is probably going to be the most anticipated distortion measurements, at least for me. So let's just jump right in. I did measure this amplifier only up till here, which is 1700 watts, because my resistor bank, the load bank that I did, cannot handle much more power. Really, I designed that load bank for testing multi-channel 4-channel amplifiers that do like maybe 4 times 200 or something watts max, and this is like almost 2K, and I could hear that and I could feel that the bank was actually getting really hot, and I didn't want to blow anything, so I just didn't test more because I'm not gonna need it. Where I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna be using it here at about 1K, maybe with like 1.2, something like that here. And here at this, let's say like 1K, we have 0.2, almost let's say 0.2, just to average it out. 0.2% of distortion. Now, if you think about it, it's not that great. However, this is a subwoofer amplifier that will be used on my infinite baffle subwoofer that's gonna play only up to 45-50 hertz. It's not gonna play anything more. So probably you know that like the perception of distortion varies depending on frequency. Some people say like below 1% distortion is where the threshold where people start to hear stuff, but this is for higher frequencies. For the most sensitive range of our hearing, which is like here between 1 and 3K, something like this, this should be below 0.5%, something like that, people say. And the lower you go in frequency, the more distortion you can tolerate and not hear it. So for the the lowest bass notes, some people say you can have up to 10% distortion and still not hear the distortion. That's why like it's very difficult to hear when the subwoofer is actually distorting. So to have distortion is 0.2% at the lowest frequencies, it's not an issue at all, absolutely not. On normal listening levels, what I would consider like 100-200 watt range, here we have 0.06 and 0.08, which is still very low distortion. Now, the main question is how does this compare to the Alpine? Because the Alpine is like an SQ subwoofer amplifier. So again, let's remember we have 0.6, 0.06, and it rises at 1K 0.2. The Alpine
is like this. And we can see the Alpine, the lowest it gets, 0.005, which is here, which is somewhere here. So you can see there's a massive, massive difference between these distortion measurements. However, this is the main question. How much distortion can you hear in the sub frequencies? So this lower measures extremely well. And just because there's a lot of power. So the A70F, which is a 4-channel, had the distortion here at 0.01, 5, something like that, below 0.02, something here. So the subwoofer amplifier has lower distortion than the 4-channel, but in sub-bass frequencies, just because if you imagine you have much more power, and for that power, like the signal to noise is a ratio between the power and the noise. And again, it's dominated by noises down there, THD is here. And with this, the Alpine does like 600 watts clean. This is into 2 ohm load. 600 watts clean. At 1%, we have 740. And again, this is at 13 volts, not at 14.4, where the Alpine rates its amplifier. So this is lower voltage. That's why it's only 740. However, with the Taramps, even with 13 volts that I have, it goes all the way, and it would go up here probably, and it's going to start rising probably something like this here at around 3K or maybe more, because we know that it does more into 2 ohms. So comparing like 1 kilowatt, which is 1,000 watts on Taramps, is 0.2, and on Alpine, well, it doesn't do 1 kilowatt because it's not enough power. You need to have higher voltage, 14.4, 15 volt. It's rated 900 only, so it's not going to do 1,000 watts anyway. Let's compare some lower numbers. So this one at 1%, we have 740 watts at 1%, 740, something like this, 0.1%. So it's quite a big of a difference, 10 times the difference in THD compared between these two. So Taramps, as bad as it is, it's very good for sub frequencies, especially for IB subs, where you cannot hear that distortion. Like if you would have these numbers, to be honest, like if you would have these even on a 4-channel amplifier, it wouldn't be that bad, because like below 0.1 is still good. It's not a problem at all. So the surprising thing, it doesn't measure bad. We have second harmonic dominated, but again, how many harmonics you can hear in sub-bass frequencies? Third is lower, much lower, and THD. Now, if we have a look at distortion versus frequency, it doesn't depend on much. So this was measured at 100 watts of output. Same like 4 channels is measured at 5 watts. Same like subwoofer amplifiers, I measured them at 100 watts. And again, it's very, very cool, very low. So this is, again, is going to be used below 45 here and this, so this range. Normal listening levels, 100 watts, 0.1%. For subwoofer frequencies, it's amazing. If we have a look at the Alpine, it's just ridiculous, 0.015. There's no distortion basically for that subwoofer amplifier, but for this one, it's gonna be plenty enough. And yeah, I measured it on 50 hertz tone. So these subwoofer amplifiers measured at 50 hertz tone because there's no other way. Now let's have a look at the actual sine tones. Oh, before I do that, let me show you what Sam did. So Sam, he removed the subsonic filter for me. And now this amplifier, it measures like that. So again, this is 1 dB scale. So if I actually do this on a 5 dB scale, slightly better. Like up to 100, then it starts to drop off. This is a built-in filter in the amplifier. But if we go look down, it goes all the way down to almost DC, 1.5 to 2 hertz. Like difference between 2 hertz and flat is like 3 dB, which is nothing because my subwoofer measures good down to like 10 hertz and up to 55. So this region, and it's totally flat here. So yeah, this is with subsonic removed. If you would have the inbuilt subsonic, it starts to roll down like at 8 something, so it would go down like something like this. This is a sine tone of 50 hertz. You can see 20 to 20, 50 hertz, and we see here, this is a lot of noise. However, even with this noise, we have a THD of 63.9, so 64, which is still great, especially for the sub frequencies. You can hear there's loads of harmonics, loads of this noise. This is probably like a switching frequency or something, I don't know. But again, 1,000 watts of subwoofer power, you're not going to hear any of that harmonics. And the first harmonic is at 100 hertz and it's going to play only up to 45. At 50 it's going to start rolling down. So all of this is not going to it's not going to be audible at all. And again, as Sam said as well, the subwoofer coil itself acts as a low pass filter. So basically the subwoofer itself, it kind of filters out all of this noise. And I did kind of listen to it. I was listening for the hiss or something. I couldn't hear absolutely anything because again, 400 grams, 500 grams of subwoofer mass, it's a massive subwoofer. If we compare this to the Alpine, obviously it's a huge difference. With the Alpine, we have just a few harmonics here and a little bit noise here. So the difference is huge. However, it's not as big as you would expect. The THD here is 83, so it's much less distortion, 20 dB less. But again, for sub frequencies, it doesn't really matter. Now, multitone is horrendous. When you look, especially like at this area, it's horrible. But this is not supposed to be used there. It's supposed to be used only like up to 50, up to 60, this range. So for that, it's plenty enough. So yeah, this is kind of, I want to say surprising, because I was expecting it to perform very bad, to have very high THD, but to have this 0.2%, for me, for my personal use, it's plenty enough.
My final thoughts on the Taramps SMART 3 bass. Is it an SQ amplifier? No, but do you need such low distortion as the Alpine for sub frequencies, especially like infrasonic? For me, this amplifier is going to be just perfect because I was looking at different amplifiers that can do a bit more power than the Alpine. I needed, like, for a headroom, I needed to have like 2000 watts into 2 ohms. There was a few options. However, consulting Sam, he said like, this is build quality wise and reliability wise. I know people are gonna make fun that, oh, these Taramps, they catch fire, they burn, they're like whatever. Yeah, like if you push them. This amplifier is gonna have such an easy life in my install, doing 1,000, maybe a bit more than 1,000 watts of clean power with clean input, no clipping whatsoever, 2 ohm load, which is a very easy load. This can be loaded down to half an ohm and it's going to be playing at 2 ohms. This is going to be a breeze for this amplifier, my install. And for the money, I couldn't get anything better in the UK. You have brands like Zapco, Stag, that can do bigger amplifiers, bigger power, but those are bloody massive. And this is kind of tiny for its size. Yes, it is tall, it is thick, but it's not as big as others. So for my specific case, It's an amazing amplifier, and I would like to hear your thoughts because I know that a lot of people buy these One Audio subwoofers, and these One Audio infinite baffle subs, they need a lot of power. Yeah, you can run them on like 500, 600 watts, but then it's just a waste. Just then buy a 12-inch and just don't bother with it. But if you're getting a 15, 18-inch that can handle 1,000 watts, you need more than 1,000 watts of clean power, because as you saw from the graphs, where the Alpine starts to rise up, you don't want to operate your amplifier on that edge where you have the rising THD up to 1%, because every dynamic burst of a beat note that might go over that, you don't want that. You want something like this that could handle 3 times as much power with no issues whatsoever, and with a distortion that is relatively low for the frequencies that is playing. So I think I will be perfectly happy about this amplifier. Now I know this is very not typical Taramps review, because with Taramps what everybody does, puts on the amp dyno, burns subwoofers and runs it down to 0.5 ohms and just do whatever. I'm not doing that. This is sound quality, and I know everybody's gonna laugh at my video because Taramps and sound quality don't mix together. However, from the measurements we saw, that is not bad at all, especially for the intended purpose of running an infinite baffle subwoofer that needs a lot of power. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.